This is François Chinley. He is gluttonous, arrogant, gregarious, and the leader of the adventuring group known as the Crimson Chins. Today, at the ripe age of 25, he begins his journey to become the greatest adventurer that ever lived. Raiding and pillaging isn't for him though. He's an intellectual, you see. Instead, he'll be using his wit and charm to schmooze his way to the top. He started by hiring his first two new members into the Crimson Chins, Gargamel and Rambo the Girthy. Immediately falling in platonic love with Rambo, François considered making him his successor of the group. He settled for making him the second in command instead. In a land of titles and fame, we can't become known without two things: money and connections. It was time for François to take his first job to gain some of both. His first contract was creating a work of learning for the Prince Bishop of Reims. François would consider this a cakewalk. He's an intellectual, you see. He knew he had to make his mark immediately and stretched his vast mind to create an exhaustive work of learning, a full 5 chapters long. In the 800s, literacy was rare, and 5 chapters may as well have been the entire Harry Potter series. Using his wit, his social skills, and a lack of military experience, he was able to make an acceptable manuscript, earning the favor of the Archbishop. This amazing success called for finding more contracts. It was time to leave Paris and move somewhere with a funnier name. He briefly considered grave robbing, but as a fine Catholic man, he refused. Gargamel was such a weirdo that he developed the nickname The Stranger, and since he wasn't Rambo and therefore we hate him, François appointed him the new title of Stooge. Everybody point and laugh. Traversing the wilds is no safe task, and François knew he needed a weapons expert. He's an intellectual, you see. He set into motion Operation Stab Stab and started building a proving ground. This would allow him to hire a master of arms. Next, some money was needed for the hiree. It was time for a simple transcribing contract. Along the way, François encountered a wandering wise man. In an oddly flirtatious moment, he convinced the man to join the Crimson Chins. His worldly knowledge would make him an astute physician to aid us against plagues and illnesses ravaging Western Europe. Having his incredible cerebral cortex wasted on something as simple as transcription, François tried to embellish and add his own flair to the written works. He failed miserably and had to hunker down hard to finish the transcript strongly. With the transcript begrudgingly completed, he headed home, immediately encountering a knight claiming to know the location of a fountain said to cure all illnesses. Seizing this opportunity, he followed the knight to this artifact. But oh no, danger! A beast was guarding the fountain. Using his vastly superior mind, he sent the knight in as a distraction, making off with the waters himself. Some camp revelry was in order to celebrate this victory. Rambo challenged François to a friendly battle of wits. François was sadly outwitted. After heavily considering imprisoning Rambo, François came to his senses and enjoyed the remainder of the gathering. A few months later, a strange foreign woman named Bela showed up, requesting to join the ranks. As a Catholic, known historically for being very accepting of other cultures and faiths, they welcomed her with open arms. It was time for a new contract, this time aiming for something more mentally stimulating. The task at hand this time was questioning the vassals of the Count of Bone. According to him, they were neglecting to pay their fair share of taxes. Not in my Western society. François fell to his arrogance quite quickly, however, as the mayor and his allies treated him like royalty upon arrival. Despite gathering mountains of evidence in favor of the Count, he sided with the mayor. François being pampered is a currency far more valuable than gold. Finally, they had enough money to afford hiring a combat expert. François and Bela traveled to the castle of Sens and met Richard the Ugly, a hulking mass of social inadequacies. He was perfect and hired on the spot. François was looking to become more worldly. He's an intellectual, you see. So he, entirely of his own volition, decided to learn the High Germanic language from Bela. Bela then proceeded to draw a sword on their physician Joffrey, definitely not an overreaction to a slight verbal disagreement. Thankfully, François was able to defuse the situation. Along the group's travels, they stumbled upon a duck. A good omen. François decides to have a little moment and follow the duck. The traitorous Quacksack sent him right into a boar. The only option was to fight the boar, which ended horribly. After retreating to Lisseau, François stumbles upon a fine maiden. However, on closer inspection, he determines her chin is not up to his standards. This interaction awakens a deep loneliness within François. He was pushing 30 and still lacked an heir, a love, and more importantly, someone to share his luxurious chin with. Thus, Operation Chin Love was set into motion. François needed to keep his eyes and heart open for somebody with a truly magnificent chin worthy of his presence. Bela foolishly called François out on his gluttonous behavior at feasts and gatherings, to which he responded by eating and then throwing a camp gathering out of spite. Bela tells a story, Richard tells a better story, François applauds Richard. Fuck you, Bela. A few years go by and François encounters an enchanting maiden in a tavern. And what's this? Is that a worthy chin? It lacks the depth, but it has the telltale cleft. This is the woman for him. Do you have a map? I just got lost in your eye. Oh, look, they're married. After some skillful seducing, Elspeth is with child, finally securing the dynasty. Through completely unavoidable circumstances, François becomes obese. This would have to be dealt with in the coming years. He switched his lifestyle focus to bettering his health, hoping to live a long life. An heir is born and named the most attractive name known to man in 876 AD, François. Elspeth starts a hunt. She gets downed and disarmed by a stag, where our valiant hero hero, François, swoops in to save her life. This solidifies them as soulmates for life. Bela runs out of her tent screaming. It turns out a pregnant wolf has taken refuge in her bed. François, an intellectual, assists the wolf in giving birth to a pack of new pets for the group, thus gaining the nickname the Wolf Father. With things starting to settle down, it was time to upgrade the pavilion and lose some weight. After about 2 days of dieting, François snapped and had an idea. The pen may be mightier than the sword, but surely the pen and the sword are mightier than than just one of them. He began hiring a small army to open up the opportunity for militaristic contracts, just in time for him to lose enough weight to exit obesity, for about 2 months before he became obese again. A knight named Simon claims to know the location of the fountain that cures all illnesses. Hoping to maintain the secrecy of the relic he outwitted his way into procuring, François told the knight to just forget all that and just come join us instead. The lack of income was starting to become an issue, and contracts were just not cutting it. It was time to open a barber tent and charge people out the ass, and also time to not be obese again. François Jr. started bossing his dad around so bad that he became obese. It becomes time to spread our chins outward and head to the neighboring kingdom of Lotharingia. God doesn't watch anywhere that isn't West Francia, so François tries to steal from a tomb. He gets caught immediately and runs back to his home kingdom, where he is pious and safe. François Jr. falls off his horse like an idiot, and François tries to slay a beast for a local settlement. He fails. Embarrassed by his military failure, he takes a contract as a temporary knight instructor. If you aren't good at something, the best method is to gaslight yourself into thinking you're good at it. Thankfully, one of the knights in training was gravely wounded, which made the process very simple. This boost in confidence cures his obesity once more. A wanderer shows up in a very similar way to how Bela showed up, and judging by her recent actions, François turns away the newcomer. This inconvenience brings back his obesity, if only for a fleeting moment. François helps to write commentaries on scriptures with a traveling scribe. He takes all the credit and discards the scribe into obscurity. He gains a rival. The physician Joffrey dies of old age and has to be replaced by the very trustworthy Bela, just in time for an outbreak of typhus to hit while the Chins are in Aquitaine. They evacuate immediately, but Bela and François Jr. fall ill. Thanks to their advanced medical knowledge, they make a full recovery. François fails to find anything valuable in some ruins, so he takes out his anger by humiliating Gargamel and becoming obese again. François Jr. falls for a malnourished girl and asks if her family can join the camp. François agrees, but only if they become betrothed. Hopefully these 13-year-olds don't go through any, major brain chemistry changes or something that would change them to be less compatible with each other. Both Richard and François' obesity die, and the Chins take on a contract to defeat a criminal in a duel. François plays it very cocky, as victory for such an intellectual is an easy feat. Oh, he's dead. Alas, a life cut short at 49. François Chinley was bested in a duel by Melusine the Evil. Maybe his son can take the reins and bring the Crimson Chins to fame, fortune, and maybe even landed titles. Special thanks to my patrons. You're all invited to the funeral. Please bring gift bags. Thank you. Bye.